Okay.
All right. You're retro trekking with the Caramel Apples, a podcast that dials up thoughtful, heartwarming nostalgia of a bygone era and fondly discuss how these cherished past memories impacted us with all of its memorable feel goods then, and in retrospect, into how they shaped what we now know of the current view of the known world. Join us in the orchard this week as we deep dive our fond memories of the lovable retro fitness guru, Richard Simmons.
Hey, I want to dance with somebody.
And a warm hello to our dear Orchard Archivers, and thank you for taking the time to retro trek with us this week. And don't forget to take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review. We so appreciate your continued support. This week we have a crazy exciting bit of nostalgia to tickle your ears with. So, yeah, we actually have a very sweet treat for you, Orchard Archivers, this week. And thank you for your loyalty and your hanging out with us. I mean, you make it fun. You really do.
Certainly, yes.
But it's really been a long time coming in deep diving into some of the fascinating details and backstory on one of the most unforgettable characters in recent retro pop culture.
He sure was.
Yeah, so now you know where we're kind of heading. This week will no doubt please a number of our dear listeners as we talk about the ever honoring, energetic, inspirational fitness guru, Richard Simmons.
Hey, I want to dance with somebody.
Richard Simmons.
Oh,
Oh, Richard.
Richard!
So that is a name as familiar and cozy as eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in warm,
Yes.
fuzzy slippers, right?
Yes, that's right.
Goodness grief. Oh my goodness.
And he might scold us on that, though. The peanut butter and jelly part, I don't know.
But all joking aside,
What?
I know, yeah, that's not our forte. Come on. But that's how synonymous not only his name, but too his presence and influence was in the fitness and wellness space. He put the L in lifestyle because it was nothing but love that Richard poured into his energetic presence on the retro pulp culture scene.
Yeah.
So we all know and love the most charismatic, inspirational fitness guru, Richard Simmons. Richard Simmons was born July 12th, 1948. But fun fact, did you know that old Richard's legal name was Milton Teagle Richard Simmons?
Okay.
Yes, Richard had multiple layers to his name.
How neat. I so love the cool things we find out during our Orchard Trek retro adventures.
Oh, me too, Kennedy.
Well, Richard Simmons was a most beloved public figure, most notably a fitness personality, well known for his fun, flamboyant, and energetic personality.
Is something beeping?
He's widely known for promoting fitness routines and weight loss programs over the years, like his ever familiar aerobics Sweating to the Oldies collection line of videos.
Uh-huh.
Like, how many living rooms and dens did Richard Grayson join all throughout the 80s? We know for a fact that Richard Simmons was a huge mainstay in our household as children.
Hashtag facts.
That's right. The mama loved to work out to her some Richard.
Oh, yes, she did. His surefire energy and charisma and charm worked for housewives all across the country at that time.
It did.
He was literally the OG go to fitness authority that stood out in so many minds there back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Simmons used his ever energetic, motivational presence to root on and encourage folks from all walks of life to hang in there to lose weight.
He did. And this right here, this week is going to be so very nostalgic and full of 80s essence. You can see and hear him in your mind's eye right now.
Yes.
He has some crazy high energy levels, and it was always showcased in his workout presentations. And we can't forget this, for this is a retro key right here. His trademark outfit, workout attire.
Yes.
And Coop, it was his candy striped dolphin shorts and Swarovski crystal decorated tank tops for the addicted effect. For the added effect, it was addictive for old Richard.
Oh, yes. So true. But outside of his energetic personality and hard to miss workout wardrobe, Richard Simmons had that magnetic personal touch with his throngs of fans, in where he interact at a personal level with the very ones using and or placing implicit trust into his products.
Mm-hmm.
So more on this fascinating angle here in a bit.
Ooh, thanks for that, Coop. So, we're highly anticipating learning so much more about what Richard Simmons brought to the table. So, how exactly did Richard Simmons get his start as to who we grow to know and became the famous 80s go to fitness guru? Well, we're heading in that direction, so check this out. Richard Simmons was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, to Leonard and Shirley Mae Douglas, and was said to have been raised in the French Quarter, as his parents were what you'd call show business parents.
Uh-huh.
So he had an older brother, Leonard Jr. So, what all consisted of having so called show business parents?
Well, Leonard Sr. was raised Methodist, so worked as a master of ceremonies, later working in thrift stores, while Richard's mother was of Russian Jewish heritage and was a traveling fan dancer.
Oh,
Later, a retail cosmetic salesperson.
okay.
So, no doubt, these few instances in young Richard Simmons' life contributed to his flashing flair for zest and life and the ascent of his fitness and wellness career.
Okay.
Fun fact: Richard attended the University of Louisiana at Lafayette before graduating from Florida State University with a bachelor's degree of art. And we are so not surprised, are we, Kennedy?
Not at all, Cooper.
Mhm.
But we'll briefly touch on a little bit more of what may have contributed to his keen interest in wellness from his early years.
Mhm.
Richard Simmons, like so many of us, loves us some delicious, delectable cuisine of a new variety. Coop does it better. Do it, Coop.
A new variety.
There it is. Yes, it's one of our crazy stories. We'll have to fill you guys in later. We're nuts.
Yes.
But because of this, he became husky, a little chubby, obese during his early childhood and teenage years.
Yeah.
So it is said that he began to overeat and become overweight as early as age of 4.
Wow. Okay.
So by 5 years old, he was aware that it was a bit of a problem and was perceived as a negative factor. So he was kind of putting two and two together, and he probably didn't feel so good about it.
And that's interesting to be of that age and be becoming aware of things like that. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
probably needless to say, there were probably comments, that probably clued him into what are they talking about? You start putting two and two together that way.
Oh yeah, because kids can be cruel.
Uh-huh. unfortunately.
Yeah, we covered a whole show, a topic on that about bullies and school bullies and stuff. That's a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so as a teenager at age 15, he weighed 182 pounds.
Okay.
Perhaps due to his father's religious background, Richard Simmons briefly considered taking up and being a priest. But it also could have been due to his early onset weight issues, feeling that maybe his options for a career was quite limited.
Oh, it could have been.
So, fun fact, in college, Richard, spreading his wings, being the adult art student he was, had appeared in or among the freak show characters in the Fellini films entitled Satyricon 1968, as well as The Clowns in 1970. So during this time, though, Richard Simmons peaked out on the scale at 268 pounds.
Oh no.
Yeah, Richard was beyond frustrated and done.
I don't blame him.
I know. What would be his next step now?
Well, still in limbo and trying to still tap into his true passion and craft, as well as living in the day to day in order to make ends meet, Richard Simmons moved to LA to pursue his desired career in performing on stage. But in the meantime, he worked at a high end Beverly Hills restaurant as a maitre d' hotel. He developed a keen interest in fitness when he noticed an obvious but disturbing trend. Yeah. Richard noticed that exercise studios in general catered to the already fit patron. So, minimal assistance was readily available for ones who needed specialized training in the way of fitness from an otherwise unhealthy state.
So that's interesting.
Hmm.
That angle is very interesting. And he took note, probably no doubt, because for his own needs,
That's right.
maybe
Hmm.
going there and not feeling like he was getting said help. Um, but that definitely opened up the way for other things. So we'll go on with no further ado.
I think that's the mindset now, though. So you're right. Let's go.
Yeah. So Richard Simmons didn't waste any time and got right into it by establishing various gyms, which we'll highlight a couple of these key places in our discussion here in a bit. With this specific target group in mind as his primary focus, and he was really striking out from a perspective of personal experience, as we just stated, and empathy.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because of this earnest endeavor, his pointed interest in said fitness actually helped him lose around 123 pounds.
Woo! Talk about commitment.
Yeah,
Oh, that is way awesome.
it most certainly is.
Yeah,
Richard Simmons was on fire.
he was. I mean, Richard Simmons' presence was always refreshing when we reflect on his strong performance in retro pop culture. And we're getting there with each caramel rung in the ladder we're discovering this week on this legendary fitness personality. So, continuing on, Coop had mentioned that Richard Simmons had this brilliant idea and desire to help a specific segment of the population who were struggling to go from an unhealthy state to a more desired healthy fit state.
Mhm.
Richard wanted to be the positive influence and catalyst to make that happen for so many who may have been struggling as he had been. And you had just mentioned that too, Coop. So I think that is absolutely incredible of him.
Yes, it really was.
Yeah.
Because there's doing things for you, and then there's also thinking of, a lot more people. So that was very kind of him to feel like, okay, how can I help others? It's not just
Hmm.
about me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
gives you a little
Hmm.
insight about him as a person. That's cool. So, fun fact, one of those established gyms Richard Simmons launched was his very own exercise studio, originally called the Anatomy Asylum.
Interesting.
Yeah, where emphasis was placed on a healthy approach to eating, making nutritious choices, as well as proper portion servings, right along and paired with enjoyable exercise in a supportive environment. It is said that this innovative fitness business originally had in place an exclusive salad bar restaurant appropriately called roughage. Clearly a pun on what that truly is.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Can we say plenty of dietary fiber? I mean, come on. An exclusive salad bar restaurant is the epitome of the late 70s, early 80s era, huh, Coop?
Darn king.
Oh,
Yeah. But let's not get too comfortable.
not with
For
roughage.
well, it does have a function. Hi. So, for the restaurant was eventually removed as the focus of the anatomy asylum, which then shifted exclusively in lieu of exercise.
Oh, okay. Oh. Richard Simmons is very committed to his cause.
Yes.
So this business model change cleverly renamed his specialized gym to Slimmons with an L.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is an obvious cute play on his surname in sunny Beverly Hills, California, with his primary focus still on the overweight population. Richard Simmons himself taught motivational classes and aerobics throughout any given week. He then became widely known through some exposure on TV, right along with the popularity of his brand's consumer products.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with us today. Okay.
Don't know. Need some roughage?
Right. Okay. So this is so fascinating, Kennedy. Richard Simmons began to draw considerable media attention due to the growing success of his fitness and wellness club.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this, Richard soon found himself on notable retro TV shows, such as one called Real People. Do you remember that show, Kennedy?
Oh, I sure do. I believe our parents watched Real People fairly regularly.
I remember this as well.
Oh my God, we're old. Yes, right?
Yes, I mean, we're talking about a retro topic, so I guess that kind of puts us right back in there. We got decades to draw on.
We do.
So Richard Simmons was showcased on the show Real People, right there in the day, in the life at work, doing what he does best.
He would introduce some of his clientele with whom he had helped and worked with those to lose weight. Richard Simmons later also had other guest roles on a number of other notable retro shows such as Battle Stars, Win, Lose, or Draw, which I remember that one. I don't think we watched that one though.
No.
The Price is Right. We did watch that one.
Yes, we did.
Match Game, $25,000 Pyramid, and Hollywood Squares.
Okay, yeah.
And that's not even the half of it. Speaking on just how fire Richard Simmons was, get this. Massive positive viewer reactions actually launched Richard Simmons into a recurring role as none other than himself. Yeah, in the long-time running retro soap opera General Hospital for over a 4-year stint.
That's insane.
It is.
That's definitely the kind of role you want. It's like, I just have to be me. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
I don't have to remember my fake name or anything. I'm me. Cool. but like as if Richard Simmons wasn't busy enough with all of the things he was involved in, he also made special appearances in shopping malls where he too taught exercise sessions, which led to even more exposure, ushering in more media attention. A fun fact, in the early 80s, Richard Simmons happily hosted 2 different shows, one called Slim Cookin', as well as his Emmy award-winning talk show appropriately called The Richard Simmons Show, where he honed in on all around wellness like personal health, fitness, exercise, and healthy cooking.
Cooper, I think I remember this show. Okay, so the Richard Simmons Show, as expected or even predictably, drew tons of true exercise enthusiasts.
I know, right? Yes, they do exist.
So go on, sis. You go ahead.
Now, Kennard, I'm all about sharing the interesting fun facts on any given retro topic.
Yes.
So buckle up, oh Carmel One, as well as you Orchard Archivers, for more interesting developments to be found on Richard Simmons.
Sounds good there, Coop. Rip them off.
Okay.
Oh my God, roughage.
That is classic.
That's awful.
So, in lieu of the Richard Simmons Show, drawing literally thousands of exercise wellness enthusiasts, I've never actually heard of this particular person, but an actress named Lucrezia Sarito Russo was a huge fan of Richard Simmons. Reportedly arranged for an entire busload of women from a Pam's Figuretique for an inspirational workout on his show.
Wow, that's quite a testament in describing a hardcore, tried and true fan.
I agree, Kennedy.
Goodness.
So it's of no secret that Richard Simmons' popularity and rising star is already getting great notice.
That's right. Right.
Yeah, we'll check this out. He's not done. This is only the beginning.
Oh, Richard.
Oh, Richard is right. Richard Simmons' notoriety wasn't just apparent here in the States, but his movement also traveled north to Canada, where he dipped his toes in lucrative advertisements.
Okay.
Fun fact, Richard Simmons also was involved in an advertisement for none other than Simmons mattresses.
Oh my goodness, that's cool.
I know. The mattress company hired the wellness celebrity due to the obvious similarity in name, but two, for his appeal to the mattress company's target demographic of women over the age of 35.
That is interesting, Coop.
Yeah.
And I love the catchy connection when it came to the clever branding in regards to his surname.
Yes.
But besides his own wellness mojo and toe dipping into consumerism, what else has Richard Simmons been a part of?
You guessed it. Richard Simmons is still sweating towards success and gaining mass exposure in pop culture. Fun fact, did you know that Richard Simmons was featured in a number of retro TV series as himself? Bravo again. Like in Chips, Whose Line Is It Anyway? And Saturday Night Live.
That is crazy cool.
I know, it's so exciting for him.
Isn't that like a conflict of interest if he was in chips? Chips, like, potato chips.
Oh, God.
I need to quit, right?
Yes.
Because Richard's way cool. Never mind, Richard. We're being nuts.
Endorse.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. If this episode entertained you, please share it. Spread the word. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. Now, back to the show. Richard Simmons also portrayed himself, in a cameo appearance in Steven Spielberg's anthology series, Amazing Stories, in 1986. Yeah, one can find his appearance in Season 1, Episode 10, entitled Remote Control Man. He was also a frequent guest on The Howard Stern Show, hardcore in the 80s and on into the 90s.
So this is an interesting development in regards to Richard Simmons' connection with Howard Stern.
Okay.
The two had a brief friendship off the air, which both openly discussed several times while on air, which is cool.
Okay. Okay.
Even though most of these interactions were fun and lighthearted with the back and forth banter, um, but unfortunately, there must have been some subtle upsets and or differences a time or two.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's no bueno.
No. So so much so that while resolved at one point to actually refuse future interaction with Stern and his show after Howard repeatedly insulted Richard.
Oh, he stepped on his toes.
Yes, and it sounds like he had had enough of old Howard for a while.
Okay, so Richards, it's all fun and games until you torque him off, and then he's like, "Look here,
Yes.
you go pound salt." But all serious now, I hate hearing that for him.
Yeah.
And experiencing something like this was probably nothing short of traumatic for him.
Yeah.
There's probably certain triggers and stuff that he's just like, you know what? No, like people can tell sometimes that they feel like they're being made fun of.
Right.
Yeah, then they're like, you know what? You can pound salt.
And if someone can detect that, okay, say they are doing something lighthearted and they can tell that their friend or
Yeah,
whomever is getting a little offended, back
yeah.
off.
I
You
agree,
know?
yeah. But
Yeah.
if somebody's being mean spirited, and Howard Stern, he's a brash personality. And that's
Whatever do
why
you mean?
that's where he got where he's at. Like he was being himself.
Yes. Yes.
But Richard was, always putting on a happy face all throughout his adult prime, masking his pain and insecurity in regards to his weight issues.
Mhm.
Then you have some brazen extrovert, as we said, come along and make fair sport of you. So that could really sting if one struggles already. And a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But poor Richard.
Yeah.
Harry's like, this is my buddy. What's your deal, Penguin? So when it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt, right?
Yeah. And Howard Stern could be a bit brazen. That was a good word. Um, that's just kind of what we've come to know about him in recent pop culture.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it may have been more folks than just Richard he'd rubbed the wrong way.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
It's like probably you could line them up around the corner.
Yeah, those aren't tickets to your show. That's another matter entirely.
Like you said, that's kind of his thing though.
Oh yeah.
So Richard Simmons did have this to say about some of the less than stellar outcome he had with ones he'd once trusted and called friends. And I quote, I don't have a lot to offer to one person. I have a lot to offer to a lot of people, end quote.
Oh.
He said this statement claiming to have had, a few personal friends,
Okay.
and that's both sad but encouraging at the same time because he was trying to look at things as, the glass half full perspective.
Right. Uh-huh.
And that's too bad though.
Mm.
But thankfully, he used that positivity to amp up his career wellness endeavors to, as he stated, to offer a lot of help to a lot of different people.
Right.
So
Right.
let's get back to Richard Simmons.
Okay, let's. Who Richard Simmons considered his personal close family and friends was his 3 Dalmatians and his 2 housekeepers. Richard Simmons lives alone in Beverly Hills, California. Unfortunately, there have been a handful of controversies surrounding Richard Simmons over the years, and after we mention some of his own personal career triumphs he has readily achieved, it'll be a natural segue back into some more unfortunate controversies that soon plagued him.
So back to Richard Simmons' electrifying wellness endeavors. How is this for some retro nostalgic memories? Some of his works are Disco Blast Off, 60s Blast Off, 80s Blast Off,
Hey.
Disco Sweat into the Oldies 1 through 5, Blast and Tone, and Sudar Mucho. and many, many more.
Okay. All right.
Richard also had his own show, The Richard Simmons Show. So I think you and I are pretty much on the same page there, Kennedy, as far as the recollection of this show.
Yeah.
Um, I do believe it was kind of early mornings, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, it
Okay.
was in the mornings. Yes.
Okay. And I can totally remember him doing the inhale, arms up, exhale, and arms up. Like, do you remember
Yes.
that?
I do. Yes, because he would take them through like little training zones,
Yes,
and he would
yes.
warm up and cool down at the end of his show. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's like, spread your feet apart. And he was always so vibrant and just, he was lively.
Yes.
And I mean, here we are as kids. We're not really, I mean, we're just really in mom's way, but, you know,
As we do best.
as we do best. Yeah. But like we can remember, parts about the show. Really, that's what really stands out to me. Can you remember anything else? Do you remember the cooking segments or anything?
It's very vague, but I
Okay.
do remember that it was a mainstay. And, I would have never guessed that he had a weight problem. I mean, because he was very fit for compared to what we just researched. He looked very fit and everything. So, I mean, like,
Yes.
obviously it was working for him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be a perfect candidate to help others, with that motive.
Yeah. It's so cool because, we were really young when this was on.
Yes.
And, here we are, some decades behind us, as we've mentioned before. And you can readily dial it up like it was just yesterday or this morning that it was on TV. This it's that vibrant, like you said, his outfit,
Yes.
like all of that. I remember there was mirrors around
Okay.
in the studio part. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. What else you got there, Coop?
Well, interesting. You should I ask. First, I'm going to insert Chip to speak English.
Oh, yeah, okay. Could you hand me one too, please?
Absolutely.
We're in the right era now.
Woo! Okay. So on further with Richard, have another fun fact.
Oh, cool.
So Richard Simmons is still interested in sharing his fitness encouragement with his tried and true fans even now. So through his official website, where fans can join his clubhouse and who can interact with Richard King Aerobics himself.
Hey, I want to dance with somebody. Hi! Hi! Hi, everybody! Hi!
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, sounds like a really sweet deal, huh?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Well, there is really so much more to Richard Simmons than meets the eye. Although he dove into his number one passion and endeavor of helping dedicated fans on their wellness journeys, one more thing he added to his wellness focused offerings for these dear fans, and you'll remember this, Coop, was his Deal a Meal diet program.
I totally remember. Yes, I do.
Did mom get that?
She did.
Okay, yeah, our mama, she loved all this type of stuff. She's like, this might work.
Yes.
Good job, mom.
Yay.
Richard Simmons was an absolute powerhouse, an inspiration to his hardcore fans due to his passion for what this whole undertaking was about and how his own personal focus with his own weight struggles were notably wielded and well controlled by such.
Yeah. With the deal a meal, wasn't it something kind of like trifold and it had cards?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, like and they were color coded.
Okay. Yes.
So like I think the rainbow. So there was red, yeah, orange, yellow, green. So everything went for a food group or whatever, however they had it divvied up for what you should eat. And,
Okay.
and I don't know, like calories. It was all laid out pretty good. Like I mean they were able to tout it for the customers.
And wouldn't you move one, you would put the cards in slots?
Yes.
as you use them. So
Yes.
I don't know how many you got of various cards, but I guess once you got all the slots filled for the day, then you would probably be done for the day.
I would think so. So that
Okay.
help you keep track. Yeah,
That's really cool.
it is cool.
So after this, Richard Simmons continued quietly in his work with Heart and Soul, but slowly he was fading away from the spotlight in recent years.
Mm.
So noticeable it was that real questions and concerns began to arise in lieu of Richard's potential whereabouts and curiosity of what he may have been up to.
Okay.
And I feel this was an indication on how well loved he was.
I so agree. There had been a handful of controversies surrounding Richard Simmons over the years, but a couple we'll make mention of was a situation that happened in 2004. It is said that Richard actually slapped a man at a busy airport here stateside.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that altercation took place after some guy obnoxiously announced aloud about Richard, and I quote, "Hey everybody, it's Richard Simmons. Let's drop our bags and rock to the 50s," end quote.
Oh.
So old Richard was not happy at the unnecessary quip. Yeah, this was no doubt
Mm.
probably one of his notable moments of unfortunate events or triggers that made Richard Simmons soon retreat from public life.
Yeah, it is noted that he hasn't made any major public appearances since, like, I think 2014,
Mm.
and actually exiting stage left starting in February of that year.
Oh, poor Richard.
Yeah,
He probably just wanted to be left alone in peace and at his discretion.
sure.
Another alleged incident occurred just 2 years later in March 2016. There was speculation that Richard Simmons may have been held hostage by his housekeeper.
Wow.
I remember this popping up in the news feeds. I do remember this.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Well, once again, this made Richard nary too happy, and he decided to give an audio interview presented on the Today Show, vehemently denying those rumors.
Okay.
But to add to the already standing curiosity, a few months later in November 2016, the fitness guru's namesake gym, Simmons, curiously closed down without any official public explanation from its owner, Richard Simmons.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting fact, a few months following the closing of Simmons, a podcast named Missing Richard Simmons launched in February of 2017,
Hmm.
devoted to digging and investigating perhaps why Richard Simmons disappeared from public life so suddenly.
Okay.
And interestingly, the following month in March, the LAPD detectives got real about this elephant in the room scenario and visited his home in order to conduct a wellness check, issuing a statement that, and I quote, Richard Simmons was perfectly fine and that right now he's doing what he wants to do and it is his business, end quote.
Okay. I do kind of remember this because it just was like, well, where is he? Is he okay? I do kind of remember
Wow.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, to go from being like he was everywhere, like,
Yeah.
and for so long he was very synonymous with weight loss and fitness, and that is big business. It probably will be for a long time. So, to
Yeah.
be that and then just gone, yeah, people cared about
Hashtag facts.
him.
Well, a month after that statement in April 2017, Richard released yet another statement following a hospitalization for severe indigestion. Richard Simmons made another rare public photo of himself, along with an accompanying comment on a social media forum, stating that, and I quote, "I am not missing, just a little under the weather." Adding to the apparent concern and confusion, the picture posted on the Facebook page was an older photo of Richard, yeah, from as
Mm,
far back as 2013,
okay.
which led to further speculation that the one who posted the curious message might not have been Richard Simmons after all.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and me and Coop are true crime buffs. Like, we like to try to figure stuff out. So this was pretty curious. So As time kept moving on,
Mm.
a few other media outlets that were interfering with the quiet details of Richard's life were sued by Richard for libel and false claims that he was going through gender reassignment. Oh boy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, those folks were brave, actively poking a bee's nest, they were.
Yeah, truly.
Oh boy.
So, interesting fact. In connection with that very lawsuit, Richard Simmons lost said lawsuit and was ordered to pay the defendant's attorney's fees.
Mm.
So poor Richard again. He just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah, that is not really too much to ask, but for him it was right now.
Yeah. So there's one more thing that has popped up on Richard Simmons in current pop culture, and that is this. Fun fact. Did you know that there is a biopic in development about the fitness guru's personal life and career?
Really?
Yeah. Richard Simmons' character is to be played by none other than Pauly Shore.
Okay, I think I had her tricklings of that.
Okay, like maybe a while back or so.
No, actually, fairly recently.
Really?
Yeah, like
Cool.
I'd say probably in the last month and a half.
Oh wow, yeah, that's really recent. Hmm.
Yeah. And can I just add that Pauly Shore is a dead ringer and looking so much like Richard Simmons.
Wow, yeah, I can see it.
I'm like, oh my God, Pauly Shore is totally on board for this project too. So like hand in glove.
But Kennard, that's not the hard part. The hard part is how Richard Simmons feels about all of this.
Mm,
You know, he's
mm.
no stranger to controversy surrounding his life.
Okay, hashtag facts.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Let's just say that Richard isn't totally cool about this for now. So spot on there, Coop. He's not cool with this.
Oh, goodness.
And he actually currently denies involvement in said biopic and made the statement that he once again just wants to live a quiet life.
Mm.
Yeah, he prefaced his fans' concerns and excitement over this development with kindness and grace, though, telling his diehard fans that he's fine and happy and that his heart is filled with your kindness towards me, end quote.
So that's encouraging to hear that he was, appreciative of the warm feedback from his devoted fans.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest, you and I both know that Richard Simmons wasn't the least bit anticipating cooperating for having a biopic filmed on his life.
I don't think so.
Because that is completely opposite of what he's been trying to do for the past few years.
Right.
So, well, hopefully, we'll have a clearer picture of what he might want to do, in regards to all of that movie and all.
Yeah, yeah.
And hopefully, too, Richard won't be too stinky towards Pauly Shore. For it seems like he's really likely a fan, too, of Richard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And probably just wants to do, said justice to his story.
Yeah, well, he certainly looks like him. Oh my God.
I could totally see it.
Yeah, I had to double take. Like I saw it in the news feeds and I was like, that's who I thought it was at first.
Oh, wow.
And then I double took and I looked back and I was like, then I looked down and it was like, Pauly Shore. And I was like, Encino Man, Pauly Shore? And then I looked, I was like, oh, and then Richard's picture was next and I was like, OMG.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, literally, that's a spot on. They
It
can get kind
was.
of close, but that one's spot on.
Caramel close. Well, hopefully the whole biopic issue will turn out well for all parties involved and therein too.
Yes.
Well, we've really done a Carmelicious deep dive on the iconic fitness guru Richard Simmons this week, and learning or being warmly reminded of all of his contributions toward the greater good and visions of his fans is so heartwarming. Richard Simmons was the walking poster child of what he wanted to encourage for others and then share with the world. It was stated that Richard had kept off his own 100-pound weight loss for, get this, 42 years.
That's staggering, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of us can't even, it's like it's hard to even get committed for a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was also not only worried about himself, but he was helping his adoring followers lose considerable amounts of weight for 35 of those years.
Mm,
Talk about some passion, drive, and dedication.
absolutely.
No one else could pull off that type of legacy in the fitness wellness world than our shining retro example in Richard Simmons.
Hey, I want to dance with somebody.
Thank you, Richard. May you enjoy your later years in relative peace and quiet. We wish that for you. From all that you've done, your public owes you that.
And that's it for this week's episode. To make sure that you never miss out on another second of our Carmelicious podcast, meet up with us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcast fix. Bye for now, and thanks so much for listening.